The door slammed so hard the picture frame fell from the wall. Glass scattered across the floor like tiny stars dying. He stood there, suitcase in hand, and said the words that would haunt me for years. "You'll die without me. You're nothing. You can't survive on your own." I believed him. That night I didn't cry. Couldn't. The tears had dried up somewhere between the second affair and the third time he'd raised his voice at our son. I sat on the edge of our bed, the bed we'd shared for 12 years, and stared at the empty closet where his clothes used to hang. The silence was deafening. It pressed against my chest like a weight I couldn't lift. My son knocked softly on the door. "Mom!" His voice cracked. He was only 9, but he sounded ancient. "Is Dad coming back?" I wanted to lie. I wanted to tell him everything would be okay, that Daddy just needed time, that we were still a family. But when I looked into his eyes, I saw the same fear I felt, the same abandonment, the same quiet death of something we'd both believed in. "I don't know, baby," I whispered. He climbed into bed beside me, and we lay there in the dark, two broken pieces of what used to be whole. The next morning I woke up to an empty bank account. He'd taken everything, every penny we'd saved, every dream we'd built. The mortgage was due in 3 days. The fridge was almost empty. And my phone buzzed with a text from him. "Good luck surviving." I stared at those words for a long time. Good luck surviving. As if my life was a game he'd already won. As if I was already defeated. But something inside me, something small and stubborn, whispered back, "Watch me." I met him when I was 23. Coffee shop on a rainy Tuesday. He held the door open for me, smiled like sunshine breaking through clouds, and said, "You look like someone who takes their coffee seriously." I laughed. God, I laughed so easily back then. Within 6 months we were married. My mother said it was too fast. My best friend said she had a bad feeling. But I was in love, the kind of love that makes you deaf to warnings and blind to red flags. He was charming, attentive. He remembered how I liked my eggs and called me beautiful even when I wore his old t-shirts. The first time he yelled at me was on our first anniversary. I'd bought the wrong wine for dinner. Something small, insignificant. But he erupted. His face twisted into something I didn't recognize, and he told me I never listened, that I was careless, that I ruined everything. Then, just as quickly, he apologized. He cried. He held me and swore it would never happen again. I believed him because I wanted to. The second time was 3 months later. Then 6 weeks. Then every week. The yelling became routine. The apologies became shorter. And somewhere along the way, I stopped recognizing myself in the mirror. The woman who laughed in coffee shops disappeared. In her place stood someone smaller, quieter, always walking on eggshells. When I got pregnant with our son, I thought it would change. I thought becoming a father would soften him. And for a while it did. He was gentle during my pregnancy. He painted the nursery yellow. He read parenting books and held my hand through contractions. But the day we brought our baby home, I saw the resentment creep back into his eyes. "Your life is over now," he said, staring at the crying infant in my arms. "You're just a mom. Nothing more." I should have left then. I should have packed our things and walked out the door. But I didn't. I stayed because I believed love could heal him. I stayed because I was terrified of being alone. I stayed because he'd convinced me I was nothing without him. And for 12 years I disappeared. There was a time when I had dreams that didn't include him. I wanted to be a teacher. I'd majored in education, spent summers volunteering at elementary schools, watching children's faces light up when they finally understood something new. I loved that moment, the spark of discovery, the pride in their eyes. I wanted to spend my life creating those moments. But he said teaching didn't pay enough. He said we needed stability. So I took a job at his father's insurance company, filing papers and answering phones. "Just until we get on our feet," he promised. We never did. I remember Sunday mornings before everything fell apart. I'd wake up early, make pancakes shaped like dinosaurs for our son. The kitchen would smell like maple syrup and coffee. My boy would sit at the table, swinging his legs, telling me stories about his imaginary adventures. Those mornings felt like tiny pockets of peace in a war zone. I had friends once too. Sarah, who'd been my roommate in college. Jessica, who I'd met at prenatal yoga. We'd meet for lunch, talk about books and movies and dreams. But slowly he cut those threads. They don't really care about you, he'd say. They're just jealous. Or he'd start a fight right before I was supposed to leave, making me cancel plans over and over until the invitations stopped coming. By year 10, my world had shrunk to 4 walls and his voice. I remember the last birthday I celebrated before he left. I turned 34. My son made me a card with crayons, a drawing of the two of us holding hands under a rainbow. Inside, in his wobbly handwriting, "You are the best mom in the world." My husband forgot. He came home late, smelling like perfume that wasn't mine, and said, "What's for dinner?" I looked at my son's card on the table. At the cold dinner I'd made hours ago. At the cake I'd baked for myself because no one else would. And something inside me cracked. Not broke, just cracked. A tiny fissure in the armor I'd built around my heart. That night, after everyone was asleep, I found an old journal in the back of my closet. The pages were yellowed, filled with my younger self's handwriting. Dreams, goals, a list of places I wanted to visit, books I wanted to read, the person I wanted to become. I didn't recognize her anymore. But God help me, I missed her. The affair wasn't the first, but it was the one that destroyed me. I found out through a text message. His phone lit up on the kitchen counter while he was in the shower. "Last night was amazing. When can I see you again?" My hands shook as I scrolled through months of messages. Hundreds of them. Love notes, plans, pictures I couldn't unsee. While I was packing school lunches and paying bills and holding our life together with bleeding fingers, he was building another one with someone else. When he came out of the bathroom, I was standing there holding his phone. "How long?" he asked. He didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. He shrugged. "Does it matter?" "Wow. Long. 8 months. He said it like he was telling me the weather. "Maybe 9. I felt my knees buckle. 9 months. Our son's entire baseball season. The holidays. My birthday he'd forgotten. He'd been with her. "I want a divorce," I said. He laughed. Actually laughed. "Go ahead. You'll lose everything. This house. The car. My lawyer will make sure you get nothing. And good luck finding a job after being a secretary for 12 years. Who's going to hire you?" I opened my mouth to fight back, but he wasn't finished. "And our son. You think any judge is going to give him to an unemployed, unstable woman? I'll tell them about your anxiety, your depression, how you can barely get out of bed some days. They'll believe me. They always do." Every word was a knife. Precise, deliberate, designed to kill whatever was left of me. He moved out 2 days later. Took the money. Took the car. Took everything except the mortgage payments and the broken woman he left behind. The humiliation came in waves. His family called me a liar. Our neighbors whispered when I walked by. His new girlfriend posted pictures of them together. At restaurants I'd wanted to try, on vacations I'd dreamed about, living the life that should have been mine. And my son watched it all. He stopped talking for 3 weeks. Just sat in his room, staring at walls, building Lego towers he'd destroy moments later. When he finally spoke, it was to ask, "Did I make Daddy leave?" I held him while we both cried. And I realized my husband hadn't just destroyed me. He'd shattered our child too. That night, after I put my son to bed, I stood in the bathroom with a bottle of pills in my hand. The mortgage was due. The electricity was getting shut off. I had $17 in my account and no one to call. He was right. I was nothing without him. I unscrewed the cap, poured the pills into my palm, counted them. And then I heard my son's voice from his bedroom. "Mom, can you stay with me? I'm scared." Put the pills back. Walked to his room. Lay down beside him. And somewhere in the dark, holding my sleeping child, I made a promise. "Not like this. I won't let him win like this. I applied to 43 jobs in 2 weeks. 43. Receptionist. Sure. Data entry clerk. Anything that would pay the bills and let me be home when my son got off the school bus. I updated my resume on a library computer because ours had been shut off. I wore the same interview outfit to every meeting because it was the only professional thing I owned that still fit. Rejection after rejection after rejection. We're looking for someone with more recent experience. We've decided to go in a different direction. We'll keep your resume on file. Which meant never. I started waitressing at a diner on Route 9. The night shift because it paid an extra $1 an hour. I'd work from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., sleep for 2 hours, then wake up to get my son ready for school. My feet bled through my shoes. I smiled at customers who snapped their fingers at me and left dollar tips on $40 bills. One night, a man grabbed my wrist as I set down his coffee. "You're too pretty to look so sad," he said, grinning. "Smile more." I wanted to scream, to throw the coffee in his face, to tell him I hadn't slept in 3 days and my son was eating cereal for dinner because I couldn't afford anything else and the man I'd loved had destroyed everything and I was drowning. Instead, I smiled. "Enjoy your meal, sir." 'Cause I needed this job. 'Cause I had no choice. 'Cause he was right, I was nothing. The bank foreclosed on the house 6 weeks after he left. I came home to an eviction notice taped to the door. 30 days to get out. I stood there staring at it, my son's backpack heavy in my hand, and I couldn't breathe. Where would we go? How would I afford first month's rent and a security deposit when I was barely making enough for food? Called my mother. She lived 3 states away, in a retirement community that didn't allow long-term guests. "You can stay for a week, maybe 2, she said. "But honey, you made your bed. You chose him." Called my sister. She didn't pick up. She texted back hours later. "I told you he was bad news. Can't help." I called Sarah, my old college friend. She said she'd loan me money, but her voice was tight, uncomfortable. "Are you sure you can pay it back? I mean, with your situation." I told her never mind. My son found me crying in the bathroom that night. I tried to hide it, but he was too smart. He climbed into my lap, too big for it now, all gangly limbs and growing bones, and wiped my tears with his small hands. "We're going to be okay, Mom," he whispered. "I know we are." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. But that week my car broke down. The transmission. $1,800 I didn't have. I took the bus to work, adding 2 hours to my commute each way. I missed tucking my son in 4 nights in a row. He started calling less, talking less, drawing pictures of houses with empty windows. I was failing. Everything. Just like he said I would. But then, on a Sunday morning, something small happened. My son's teacher called. "I wanted you to know," she said gently, "that your son wrote the most beautiful essay in class. About resilience. About his mother. About how superheroes don't always wear capes." I cried when I hung up. Not because I believed her, but because for the first time in months, someone saw me as something other than broken. We moved into a 1-bedroom apartment in a building that smelled like mildew and regret. The walls were thin enough to hear our neighbors fighting. The radiator clanked all night. There were stains on the carpet I couldn't scrub out no matter how hard I tried. My son got the bedroom. I slept on an air mattress in the living room that deflated by morning, so I'd wake up on the floor, my back screaming, my alarm already going off. He stopped inviting friends over. Stopped talking about school. Started getting in trouble, small things at first. Talking back to teachers. Not turning in homework. Then bigger things. A fight in the cafeteria. Detention. A call from the principal asking if everything was okay at home. I didn't know how to answer that. His father called once a month, if that. Always with an excuse. "I'm busy with work. My new life is complicated. He'll understand when he's older." My son would wait by the phone on the days his dad promised to call, and when the call never came, he'd go to his room and close the door. I could hear him crying through the walls. I wanted to kill my ex-husband for that. for breaking our son's heart over and over again. 3 months into our new life, I got fired from the diner. A customer complained that I was rude and inattentive. I'd been working a double shift 16 hours straight, and I'd forgotten to refill his coffee. My manager didn't care. "You're replaceable," he said, handing me my last check. "There are 100 women who'd kill for this job." I sat in the parking lot and stared at the check. $283. That was supposed to last us 2 weeks. I stopped eating to make the food stretch for my son. I told him I wasn't hungry, that I'd eaten at work. He believed me because he was 9 and he wanted to. But I could see the worry in his eyes. The way he'd save half his sandwich and leave it in the fridge. "In case you get hungry later, Mom." I lost 15 pounds in 6 weeks. My clothes hung off me. My hair started falling out in clumps. I looked in the mirror and saw a ghost. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't keep pretending I was strong. I couldn't keep telling my son everything would be okay when I didn't believe it myself. I couldn't keep fighting a battle I'd already lost. One night, after my son fell asleep, I walked to the bathroom and looked at my reflection for a long time. The hollow eyes, the sharp cheekbones, the woman who'd given up everything and gotten nothing in return. "He was right," I whispered to her. "You're nothing. You've always been nothing." I thought about my son waking up to find me gone. I thought about him growing up believing his mother was too weak to stay. I thought about becoming another statistic, another sad story, another woman who couldn't survive without the man who destroyed her. And I wanted to let go. God, I wanted to let go so badly. But then I heard it. A sound from my son's room. Not crying. Not a nightmare. He was praying. I pressed my ear to his door and listened. "Please, God," he whispered into the dark. "Please help my mom. She's trying so hard. Please don't let her give up. She's all I have. Please." His voice cracked on that last word. And something inside me broke open. Not shattered, opened. Like a seed splitting in soil, making room for something new to grow. I couldn't give up. Not because I was strong. Not because I believed I'd win. But because he believed in me. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. But something inside me still pulsed. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened that old journal again. The one with my younger self's dreams written in faded ink. I read through the pages. All the things I'd wanted to be. All the places I'd wanted to go. All the promises I'd made to a girl who believed the world was hers. And then I picked up a pen. "I promised myself I would survive," I wrote. Not for him. Not to prove him wrong. But because my son deserves a mother who fights. So today I start fighting. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was just a sentence on a page. But it was the first true thing I'd written in 12 years. I went to the library and printed out my teaching certification documents. They'd expired, but I could renew them. It would take time, money I didn't have, courses I'd need to retake. But it was possible. The woman at the certification office looked at me over her glasses and said, "It'll take at least a year. Maybe 2. Are you sure?" "I'm sure," I said. I sold everything I could. My wedding ring. I got $80 for it at a pawn shop. The silver necklace my grandmother had given me. The designer purse I'd bought during better times. Every piece of my old life I turned into cash. It wasn't much. But it was something. I enrolled in night classes at the community college. 2 courses to start. Educational psychology and classroom management. I'd work during the day, study at night, sleep when I could. It was impossible. But I was doing it anyway. My son noticed the change. Not in what I said, but in how I moved. I stood straighter. I stopped apologizing for taking up space. When he asked what I was doing with all the books spread across our tiny living room, I said, "I'm becoming a teacher. Like I always wanted." His eyes lit up. "Really? Really? Dad said you couldn't." I looked at my son, this beautiful boy who'd inherited my eyes and his father's stubbornness, and I said the words I should have said years ago. "Your dad was wrong about a lot of things. Including me." That semester I got an A in both classes. The professor wrote on my final paper. Your perspective on resilience in the classroom is extraordinary. Have you considered publishing this? I cried when I read that. Because someone saw potential in me. Because I'd forgotten what it felt like to be good at something. I started going to a free support group at the community center. Women like me. Survivors. Fighters. Some nights I just listened. Other nights I shared. And slowly, painfully, I started to believe the words they kept saying. It wasn't your fault. You deserved better. You are enough. I wrote those words on sticky notes and put them on my bathroom mirror. You are enough. Some days I believed it. Most days I didn't. But I said it out loud anyway. Every single morning. Like a prayer. Like a promise. And on the really hard days, when the weight of everything felt too heavy, I'd look at the first page of my journal. At that one sentence I'd written. I promised myself I would survive. And I'd keep going. 18 months passed like seasons changing. I got a job as a substitute teacher. It didn't pay much, but it was in a classroom. My classroom. Kids who needed someone to believe in them the way my son believed in me. On my first day, a little girl with braids raised her hand and asked, Are you nervous, miss? Terrified, I admitted. She smiled. That's okay. We'll help you. And they did. I saved $3 a day. $3 from every paycheck. Hidden in an envelope taped under my kitchen drawer. Some weeks it was more. Some weeks it was less. But slowly, impossibly, it grew. $50. Then $100. Then $500. My son made the honor roll. He brought the certificate home, pride shining in his eyes, and I hung it on our refrigerator like it was a masterpiece. I knew you could do it, I told him. I learned from you, he said. I worked 3 jobs that year. Substitute teaching during the day. Tutoring in the evenings. Weekend shifts at a grocery store. I was exhausted. My body ached. But every dollar was a brick. And I was building something. I passed my teaching certification exam on the second try. The first time I failed by 3 points. I cried in the testing center parking lot, convinced I'd never be good enough. But I studied harder. Slept less. Tried again. When I saw the word pass on the screen, I called my son from the parking lot. I did it, I said, my voice shaking. Baby, I did it. He screamed so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. I knew you would, Mom. I knew it. I applied to every school in the district. Got interviews at 4. Got rejected by 3. But the 4th, a small elementary school on the edge of town, called me back. We'd like to offer you a position, the principal said. 3rd grade. Full-time. Benefits included. I couldn't speak. I just sat there, phone pressed to my ear, tears streaming down my face. Ms. Anderson, are you still there? Yes, I whispered. Yes, I'm here. And yes, I accept. We moved into a better apartment. 2 bedrooms. Windows that actually opened. A kitchen where the stove worked and the sink didn't leak. My son got his own space. I painted his room blue, his favorite color, and he helped me hang posters of his heroes on the walls. This feels like home, he said, standing in the doorway. It is home, I told him. Our home. That no one can take away. I started sleeping through the night. Started eating meals without guilt. Started recognizing the woman in the mirror again. She was older, tired, scarred, but she was standing. And that was everything. I bought myself flowers one Friday. Just because. Tulips from the grocery store, nothing fancy. But when I put them in a vase on our kitchen table, my son looked at me and said, You look happy, Mom. I realized he was right. I was happy. Not perfectly. Not completely. But genuinely, quietly, impossibly happy. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was just surviving. I was living. 3 years had passed since he walked out. My son was 12 now. Taller. His voice was starting to crack. He looked more like his father every day, and sometimes that hurt. But he had my heart. And that mattered more. I was in my 2nd year of teaching. My classroom was covered in student artwork. My desk had a coffee mug that said, "World's okayest teacher." A gift from my son. Had friends again. Life again. I'd even gone on a date. Nothing serious, but it felt good to remember I was still a person who deserved good things. Thought I'd moved on. Then one Tuesday afternoon, my son came home from school with an envelope. "Dad sent this," he said quietly, setting it on the kitchen table like it might explode. My blood went cold. I stared at the envelope. My ex-husband's handwriting. The same scrawl that used to leave me love notes. Then grocery list. Then nothing. "Did you open it?" "Yes." "It's addressed to you." I picked it up with shaking hands. Inside was a letter. 2 pages. His handwriting bleeding through the paper. "I made a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life. She left me. Took everything just like I did to you. And now I'm alone, and I finally understand what I did to you. Plus, I want to come home. I want to fix this. For our son. He needs his father. Please, give me another chance." I read it 3 times. Each time I felt something different. First rage. Then disgust. Then something worse. Pity. My son was watching me. What does it say? He wants to come back. The words hung in the air like smoke. My son's face went through a dozen emotions in seconds. Oh, anger, confusion, fear. "Do you want him to?" he asked. "No," I said. And I meant it. But my son looked away. "I do." My heart broke. "Baby. I know he's a bad person. I know what he did. But he's still my dad." His voice cracked. "And I miss him." I pulled him into my arms. He was too big to hold the way I used to, but he let me anyway. "You have every right to miss him," I whispered. "And you have every right to want him in your life. But you need to understand something. I can't let him back into mine. Not after everything." "I know," he said into my shoulder. "I'm sorry. Don't apologize for loving your father." But the letter opened something I'd sealed shut. The memories came flooding back. The good times before the bad. The man I'd married before he became the man who destroyed me. And for one dangerous, stupid moment I wondered, what if he really had changed? 2 days later he called. I almost didn't answer. But my son was watching, and I couldn't make this decision without hearing his voice. Without knowing if this was real. "Hello," I said. "It's me." His voice was different. "Muller. Did you get my letter?" "I did. And I don't know what you want me to say. Say you'll think about it. Say we can try again. For our son." There it was. The manipulation. The way he always knew exactly which button to push. Our son. Always our son. "You don't get to use him as leverage," I said, my voice steady. "Not anymore. I'm not. You walked out on us. You took everything. You told me I'd die without you. Do you remember that?" Silence. "Do you remember? I was angry. You were cruel. And now you're alone and you want me to save you like I always did. But I can't. Because I barely saved myself." "Please," he said, and his voice broke. "I have nothing. I lost my job, my apartment, everything. I'm living in my car. I just need. I can't help you." But even as I said it, I felt the old instinct rising. The need to fix him. To save him. To prove I was good enough to keep him. And then my son walked into the room. He looked at me. Really looked at me. And I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Strength. "You don't have to, Mom," he said quietly. "You don't have to save him." He nodded. Took a breath. "I'm sorry you're struggling," I told my ex-husband. "But I can't be your rescue. Not this time." I hung up before he could respond. My son hugged me. "I'm proud of you," he whispered. And I realized something. I was proud of me too. But the peace didn't last. Because 3 days later at 9 p.m. there was a knock on our door. Opened it. And there he was. He looked terrible. The man who'd always been so put together. Pressed shirts, expensive cologne, that confident smirk, was standing on my doorstep in wrinkled clothes. Unshaven. His eyes were hollow, desperate. like he'd been wandering in the dark for too long. I had nowhere else to go, he said. Behind me, I heard my son's footsteps. Dad! The word came out small, hopeful. And I hated my ex-husband for putting that hope there. Hi, buddy. His voice cracked. I missed you. My son pushed past me. For a moment, I thought he'd run into his father's arms. But he stopped a few feet away. Close but not touching. Wanting but not trusting. You can't be here, I said quietly. I just want to talk. 5 minutes, please. My son looked at me. Those eyes, so young, so old, pleading. Mom! Every instinct screamed at me to slam the door. To protect us from this man who'd already caused so much damage. But I looked at my son and I understood. He needed this. He needed to see his father, to understand why, to maybe find some kind of closure. 5 minutes, I said. In the hallway. Not inside. I stepped out and closed the door behind us, leaving my son inside. He pressed his face against the window, watching. Thank you, my ex-husband said. Don't thank me. You have 4 minutes left. He laughed, a bitter, broken sound. You've changed. I had to. I was wrong. About everything. You weren't nothing. You were everything. And I was too stupid and too broken to see it. I don't need your apologies. I know. But I need to give them. He ran a hand through his unwashed hair. She left me the same way I left you. Took the money. Took everything I had. And when I had nothing, all those people I thought were my friends. My family. They blamed me. Said I destroyed a good woman for trash. Felt nothing. No satisfaction. No vindication. Just exhaustion. I'm sorry that happened to you, I said. Truly. But it doesn't change what you did to us. I know. But I want to make it right. I want to be in my son's life. I want to pay you back every dollar. I don't want your money. Then what do you want? I looked through the window at my son. At this beautiful, brave boy who'd survived so much. Who'd watched his mother break and then rebuild herself piece by piece. I want you to be a good father, I said. Not for me. For him. If you're going to be in his life, you show up. You call when you say you will. You don't make promises you can't keep. You don't use him to get to me. And you respect the boundaries I set. Because I'm not that woman anymore. The one who bent until she broke. I'm someone else now. He nodded slowly. I see that. You took everything from me. My money, my confidence, my sense of self. You told me I'd die without you. Do you remember? Yes. I almost did. Came so close. But I didn't. And now I'm standing here, alive, happy, whole, without you. So if you want back in our son's life, you earn it. Slowly. With actions, not words. And if you ever hurt him the way you hurt me, I will make sure you never see him again. Do you understand? Yes. Your 5 minutes are up. I turned to go back inside, but he grabbed my wrist. Not hard. Just desperate. I loved you, he said. I know I had a horrible way of showing it, but I did. I looked down at his hand on my wrist. The same hand that used to hold mine during our wedding. The same hand that had wiped my tears. The same hand that had taken everything. I pulled away gently. I loved you too, I said. That's why it hurts so much. But love isn't enough when there's no respect. No trust. No partnership. You didn't love me. You loved controlling me. And I don't blame you anymore for that. But I don't forgive you either. And I don't need to. I went inside. My son was waiting. His face pressed against the glass. Is he coming back? He asked. If he wants to be in your life, he can try. But he has to prove himself. And it's up to you if you want that. Do you want it? This isn't about me anymore, baby. It's about you and him. I'm okay either way. 'Cause we're okay. You and me. We're more than okay. He hugged me tight. We really are. Through the window, I watched my ex-husband walk away. Shoulders slumped. Defeated. Alone. And I felt something I never thought I'd feel. Not because he was suffering. but because his suffering no longer defined mine. I had survived. No, I had thrived. And the woman he said would die without him. She was finally, beautifully, impossibly alive. 6 months later, my ex-husband started showing up. Not to my door, but to parent-teacher conferences, to my son's baseball games. He'd sit in the bleachers, awkward and alone, clapping when our son hit the ball. At first, I'd tense every time I saw him. My body remembered the fear, even when my mind had moved on. But slowly something shifted. He wasn't trying to talk to me. He wasn't making excuses or asking for second chances. He was just being a father. Imperfectly, inconsistently. But he was trying. My son noticed. "Dad's different," he said one night after a game. "How?" "Quieter. He listens now. He asks how I'm doing and actually waits for the answer." He nodded. People can change. Not always. Not easily. But sometimes. Do you hate him? I thought about that question for a long time. Did I hate him? Once I would have said yes. Once the hatred was the only thing keeping me warm. But now, no, I said truthfully. I don't hate him. I don't love him either. He's just someone I used to know. Someone who hurt me. But someone who also gave me you. And I can hold both of those truths at the same time. My son smiled. That's really mature, Mom. Therapy helps, I laughed. 'Cause I'd started going. Every Tuesday evening. Unpacking years of trauma with a kind woman who never judged, never rushed, never told me how to feel. She taught me that healing isn't linear. That forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. That I could honor my pain without letting it define me. One afternoon, I was organizing my classroom when I found an old photo tucked in a book. Me on my wedding day. Young. Smiling. So full of hope. I almost threw it away. But instead I looked at her. That girl who thought love conquered all. And I felt something unexpected. Compassion. She didn't know what was coming. She couldn't have. And she did the best she could with what she had. She survived years of pain. She fought her way out of darkness. She became me. Kept the photo. Not to remember him, but to honor her. The woman I used to be. The woman who never gave up, even when giving up seemed like the only option. That night I wrote in my journal. The same journal where I'd made that first promise years ago. I learned that strength isn't never breaking. It's breaking and choosing to rebuild. I learned that my worth isn't determined by who stays or who leaves. I learned that the hardest person to forgive is often yourself. And I learned that happy endings aren't about perfect lives. They're about imperfect lives lived with courage. Pause. Then added one more line. He said I'd die without him. But I didn't. I bloomed. My son graduated middle school that spring. He gave a speech at the ceremony. I sat in the audience, surrounded by other proud parents, and listened to him talk about resilience. About his hero. About the woman who taught him that falling down doesn't matter as much as getting back up. He was talking about me. Afterward, as we took photos, my ex-husband approached. He didn't come too close. Just enough to be heard. You did an amazing job with him, he said quietly. You did what I couldn't. We did, I corrected. He's strong because he survived both of us. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was release. The anger I'd carried for so long finally loosening its grip. Not because he deserved it, but because I did. That night, I stood on our small balcony and looked up at the stars. The same stars that had witnessed my darkest moments. The same stars that had watched me crawl, then walk, then run toward a life I'd built with my own hands. And I understood the lesson I'd been too broken to learn before. No one can save you but yourself. No one can destroy you but yourself. And the moment you realize that, truly realize it, you become unstoppable. Not because you're fearless, but because you've already survived your worst fear. And if you can survive that, you can survive anything. 5 years have passed since that door slammed. I'm 39 now. My son is in high school. He's taller than me, plays varsity baseball, and still leaves half his sandwich in the fridge. just in case. He has his father's smile but my resilience. And when I look at him, I don't see what we lost. I see what we built. I was named Teacher of the Year last spring. They gave me a plaque and asked me to give a speech. I stood in front of the entire school district and told them about the woman who almost gave up. The woman who slept on floors and cried in bathroom stalls and believed she was nothing. I told them how she survived. And I watched grown adults cry. Afterward, a young teacher approached me. She was maybe 25, with scared eyes and bruises she tried to hide with makeup. "How did you do it?" she whispered. "How did you leave?" I took her hands. One day at a time. One choice at a time. One breath at a time. You call the hotline. You make a plan. You remember that you deserve more than survival. You deserve a life. She cried. I gave her my number. 3 months later, she called to tell me she'd left. That she was scared but free. That my story gave her permission to write her own. That's when I understood why I survived. Not just for me. Not just for my son. But for her. And for every woman who thinks she can't make it. Who believes the lies. Who's been told she's nothing without someone who treats her like nothing. I bought a house last year. 3 bedrooms. A backyard where I planted a garden. Tomatoes. Sunflowers. Roses that bloom every spring. My son helped me dig the holes. Metaphor alert, he teased, and we both laughed. But he was right. I was planting roots. Real ones. In soil I owned. In a life no one could take away. My ex-husband sends child support now. Not much but something. He sees our son twice a month. They have dinner. Talk about sports. Build something slow and careful. I don't ask questions. It's their relationship, not mine. But sometimes my son comes home and says, "Dad asked about you today. What did you tell him? That you're happy. That you're dating someone nice. That you laugh a lot now." All of it is true. I met someone. A kind man who opens doors and remembers how I take my coffee and has never once raised his voice. When I told him my story, he didn't try to save me. He just said, "I'm glad you saved yourself." That's how I knew he was different. Yesterday I found that old journal. The one where I wrote, I promised myself I would survive. I read through years of entries. Pain. Fear. Tiny victories. The moments I almost gave up. And on the last page, I wrote one final entry. He said I'd die without him. But the day I stopped crying, my life finally began to bloom. And now I know the truth. I didn't need him to live. I just needed to believe in myself. Closed the journal. Put it on my bookshelf. Not to forget, but to remember. To remember the woman who fell. The woman who crawled. The woman who stood back up and said, "Not today. I'm not done yet." If you're reading this, if you're listening to this story, I want you to know something. Maybe you're in the dark right now. Maybe someone told you that you're nothing. That you can't make it. That you'll die without them. Maybe you believe it. But I'm here to tell you, they're wrong. You are not nothing. You are not weak. You are not broken beyond repair. You are surviving. And survival is the first step toward thriving. It won't be easy. Some days you'll want to give up. Some days the weight will feel too heavy. But on those days, remember this story. Remember that a woman who had nothing built everything. That a woman who wanted to die chose to live. That a woman who believed she was worthless discovered she was priceless. You can do this. I know you can. 'Cause I did. And I was no one special. I was just a woman who refused to let her ending be written by someone who never deserved to hold the pen. So here's my question for you. What story are you writing? And who's holding the pen? If it's not you, take it back. Today. Right now. This moment. Your life is waiting. And trust me, it's more beautiful than you can imagine.